Hey, everybody, and welcome to another Comics Creators interview. This time we've got Jason Sandberg. He's got a comic called Jupiter. He has an IndieGoGo that is just soaring. And we just got word that he also has a Kickstarter backing it up. But in this interview, we're just going to go ahead and deep dive with Jason about Jupiter, about his comics making craft, flip through Jupiter, and then, see where we end up getting into in the world of making comics. So with that said, Jason, thank you so much for joining us today.
You're welcome. Now, I want the people watching to know that because Jake and Kurt are actual artists themselves, I gave them a hard copy proof of the book. So it's not published yet. And there's a disclaimer at the bottom that the artwork is not final. As we look through this, I'm kind of putting my fate in their hands as fellow artists, that they're not going to be too hard on me, and that everybody watching knows that I'm still going in there doing tweaks on the artwork and so forth. And when you're an artist and you're looking at a page for hours and hours, things can get a little wonky. So it's always good to put it in the drawer, don't look at it, and then go take a look at it and do your final adjustments. So think of this as the rough cut of the book. When we look at it, you'll see that it's mostly complete, but I got some fine tuning to do, and then I'm putting my fate in their hands by sharing this. And we've talked about no spoilers, so we'll see how that goes. But let's take a look at the book.
Definitely. So Jupiter is a comic book project that you're doing mainly on an IndieGoGo, which is a crowdfunding source that follows the story of Brenda Marshfield, a teenager trapped in an unhappy home who gains the ability to escape to anywhere or stay to become a hero. The story involves a family vacation in an isolated cabin that collides with an opening of a hole in space and time, leading to a revolution in a neighboring dimension that grants Brenda powers unimagined. Now, I just want to state, we love the whole space and time thing. So that is exactly what brought us in right from the get. Do you want to expand on Brenda's story there, Jason?
Yeah, so in her family situation, she's not the victim of abuse or neglect, but there's a sadness that's hovering over the family. I'm not going to tell you all right in this issue what that family tragedy is, but if you read the book, there's some clues hidden in there as to what happened and why they've gone to this cabin to kind of escape. And again, this gets back to it's a common theme for people in their teen years. They really want to run away from home. But what if you could run away anywhere? Meaning you could open up a portal and go anywhere, and then you would never have to do homework again. You could escape. Your parents are getting on your nerves. You could escape them. You could never have to grow up and get a day job. So that's the temptation. And as the story progresses, it is her hero's journey. She's going to become a superhero in a world that doesn't have superheroes. She's going to be unique. She's going to be special. But there's always that dynamic between fight and flight. So what if there's a dynamic between fight and flight? And when I say flight, I mean you could literally go anywhere, right? And versus staying and fighting and basically becoming a superhero.
Yeah, it's I'll say you get us right from the beginning. So and when it does come to the art, I just want to say this is all you. I should ask. This is all you.
Yep, I write it, I draw it, I ink it, I color it. Even the typos are mine. It's all me.
So you're still
doing.
Go ahead, Jake.
You're doing pencils, inks, and then you bring it into a computer to colorize.
Yep. So I've got what I do is I'll thumbnail on 3x5 index cards. Then I'll scan them in, and I'll do the line art in Adobe Fresco on an iPad, and then I'll carry it into Photoshop. I'll do the coloring and the textures. Then I'll bring it back into Adobe Fresco, and then using the Adobe Pencil, I'll do the fine textures in a color, right, to build up the layers. So each page probably bounces back and forth between Adobe Fresco and Adobe Photoshop 4 or 5 times as I'm building it up.
Oh, so this is created digitally from the beginning.
Yeah. There's I'll do thumbnails on 3x5 index cards, and then part of my scripting process is I'll do a thumbnail for every panel, right? And I'll kind of get the gestures down and so forth. And then I'll rearrange them and then build out a page. And then at that point, I'll take that into Adobe InDesign, and I'll kind of stretch the thumbnails out to get the angles and the positioning correct, so they're good gestures. And then in Adobe Fresco on the iPad, that's where I'm doing the line art that you see.
Right. And I see you also have some fades and sunspots and solar flare. What do they call it? Sun flares and what are they? Out of focus, like the motion indications, right?
Yep,
So there's
in Photoshop, yeah,
yeah,
the wonders
a
of
lot of
Photoshop.
embellishment going on. You got your
And
your lettering is laid right in onto the pages, right?
yep, and the fun thing about obviously working digitally is you can try something and then remove it versus pen
Control
and
Z.
ink. Exactly. Versus pen and ink, there's always a risk that you're gonna go out on a limb and it's gonna break, right?
Who's
And then actually, Kurt,
inspiring
if
you
you
as an artist?
so in my DNA, and Kurt, I'm going to ask you,
Yeah.
hold on that page. I want to,
Sure.
when we turn the page, I want to skip 2 pages because there's something on the next page I don't want out on the internet.
No
yet.
problem.
I want
No
people to back the book. But basically in my DNA is Jack Kirby, Mobius, Mike Barron and Steve Rude, Scott McCloud, and Zap Comics. Those are, if you took all those things and you put them in a blender, you'd get me. So that's all in my DNA. And as we get deeper into the book, you'll see that there's this main story here. It's like 24 pages drawn in this basically I just call it modern realist art style, right? It might be a little stylized, but it's basically fine lines and the full color spectrum. There's sections of the book that are homage Silver and Bronze Age comics, and then there's also some short stories and some one-page vignettes that some of them could have been at home in Zap Comics if they were black and white and if I had been around in the 60s.
You're talking
Right
our
on.
language.
Yeah, and
All right.
I recognized every one of those influences. When you're talking about Rude and Barron, so is that the Nexus storyline, or were there other
Yep.
things that they put out that, yeah, it was all Nexus?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah. So the first comic book I ever bought was Captain America 214 in 1977. And then the first indie comic I ever bought was Nexus issue 2 in 1983, the Color series. And that hit me. So I was a Marvel zombie. I was having a great time. But when I picked up Nexus number 2, it was like a lightning bolt because the artwork was better, the paper was better, the coloring was better, the story was better. The story had more crazy ideas than anything else that the Big Two was publishing. So at that point, I still kind of kept my foot in Marvel. I picked up anything by Sal Buscema, John Byrne, and so forth, and John Buscema.
Mm-hmm.
I still loved Marvel, but I began to get into the indies. So it was Dreadstar, Zot, ElfQuest, Cerebus, all that stuff. I just drank in all of that 80s indie comics.
Right. I see the Kirby on this spread here.
Definitely.
So take us through your situation. Are you a full-time creator, or is this something that you've had in the works for a long time, or?
I have a very, very demanding, very satisfying day job, and basically when my kids go to bed and my wife goes to bed, I hop onto my studio here and I just get as much work done as I can, and then try to take usually like half the weekends I'll be doing yard work. The rest of the weekend I'll be doing this stuff here. Yep,
same with us. It's unfortunately a slow pace, but it's going somewhere eventually because the more you accumulate, the more you can keep things in print and just add to it. So it's all good.
Something that I think, especially for us that love the medium and have basically have a day job, with crowdfunding, the market, and here's my theory. For years, people have been saying that, hey, we need to move to the European model where you're a creator and you're publishing 2 or 3 OGNs a year, right? Versus 12 monthlies a year. And Marvel and DC, they're like, no, that's not our business model. We're going to keep churning out product, and you suckers are going to buy it, right? What I think is happening is that with the opportunity for crowdfunding, we now are building out that European model where I am perfectly fine spending $20 or $30 twice a year for a Graham Nolan book. I'm perfectly fine waiting 2 months or twice a year getting a Tom Grummett and Carl Kessel book, right? I would rather have them take the time and pour everything they've got into it. And I instead of spending $4 a month or $5 a month, I spend $20 or $30 twice a year. So inadvertently, I think that the crowdfunding revolution is bringing the American market into alignment with the European model.
I
Yeah.
completely
So
believe. I definitely am with you all the way on that, Jason.
and people like us that love this, we don't have a monthly deadline, and we can take a couple extra days, couple extra weeks to get it right. So
Yeah.
I think that's why I'm so excited about crowdfunding.
Now, why do you
And then
think
obviously,
IndieGoGo is doing better than Kickstarter? Why is IndieGoGo?
so I don't have the full market research, but here's why I went with IndieGoGo. IndieGoGo has the in-demand phase. So at the end of the campaign, the book stays there as available as an evergreen. And
Yep.
in my own experience, if I'm on Twitter or something like that, if I'll post something or I'll make a comment about something, and like 6 months later, someone will like that comment or they'll say, "Hey, good point" or whatever, and I'm like, I don't even remember saying that, right? So with the Indiegogo campaign, you're constantly, anytime you're doing a crowdfunding, you're constantly trying to share the link, spread the word, do the signal boosting. I'm signal boosting other creators, they're signal boosting me. And with the Kickstarter model, someone could come across a piece of your artwork as a promo or as a sample 6 months after the campaign ends. They go to the link and it's a dead link because Kickstarter doesn't do this in demand. So I said to myself, okay, if I am going to put all my effort into driving traffic to this URL for the Indiegogo page, I'm going to make sure it's an evergreen. And so Indiegogo offers that in demand, and it's an evergreen. And obviously, I'll take the overprint and I'll put them on my eBay store. I'll go to Diamond and Lunar and see if they want to distribute it. But I think the power of Indiegogo is that you basically have this eternal storefront. So 3 years from now, someone sees the link in someone's feed, they can go click on it and get the book.
So is this your maiden voyage, or have you put stuff out before?
So back in the late 90s, I published Jupiter as a independent black and white comic book. It went 9 issues. It was critically acclaimed, but I had no marketing budget. I was in my 20s. I didn't know what I was really didn't really know what I was doing. And Diamond was very good to me. They let me hang on there. I got 9 issues out through Diamond. At the end of it, they said, "Hey, we like your stuff. Let's just reboot it with a new #1." And I had to do some soul searching. And what had happened with Jupiter in the 90s is that the sales never went down. So the people who got their hands on it loved it. They kept ordering it. They kept buying it. But I couldn't expand the readership. So for 9, well, it was about a year because I went bi-monthly at the end. But through 9 issues, I'm pounding my head against the wall, trying to find an audience for it beyond the audience that was buying it, right? And I work with Diamond, and we would target comic book shops. We'd say, okay, let's send a promo pack of Jupiter, like a free issue of Jupiter, plus a letter from me and so forth. We'll send it to the top 200 stores that sell 8-ball. And so we'd send out these promo packs and we'd wait, and like it wouldn't move the needle. And then we go, okay, all right, let's send a promo pack to the top 200 stores that move Cerebus. Which stores sell the most issues of Cerebus in the 90s? Let's send it to them. Nothing would happen. So I had to do some soul searching. It was a very hard decision, but I said, listen, the market is not telling me to stop, but the market is not telling me to continue. So I hit pause on it, took care of career, family, got a house, stuff like that. In the meantime, I still obviously loved the medium, loved reading it, and then did other kinds of artwork. And then flash forward to 2019, I come across this crowdfunding revolution, and I say to myself, this is perfect for me because the crowdfunding is more direct than the direct market. I can get connected directly to readers and find readers versus having to cross my fingers that the comic book shops will order 3 copies of the first issue and then like 1 copy of the second issue, and you've heard how that goes. And while the indie comic book market through the direct market is better than it was, say, in like the late 90s, by and large, these retailers, they're very risk averse, and they don't know who I am, right? And so this is an opportunity to get the work out there, and then with the overprint, then go approach Diamond and learn.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
fantastic.
definitely. That's exactly what we're doing. We're putting stuff out in the '90s. Life intervened, so we're right there with you.
It's just the catching up with technology that we're struggling with.
That's
Right. Well,
so I've got a saying. I got a saying that we live in the app age. We live in the
Yeah.
app age, and what that
Yeah.
means is that every one of us, we go through life knowing that when we pick up our phone, something has changed on our phone. There's either
Right.
the app has changed, or there's a better app, or they redesigned the app, or they made the button a different shape, or whatever. Right? We just, that's just part of life now. And so I'm excited. I mean, granted, I sometimes I boomer it and I have issues, but by and large, it is an exciting time because, I mean, 20 years ago, I would not have been able to talk to you two, right? We would have,
Correct.
we maybe would have come across each other at a convention. So
Right.
we live in this wonderful age where we can connect like this. And then if one of us has a technical question, you can go on YouTube. Chances are you can find a tutorial or what have you. So with regards to the technology, you're right. It can be a headache sometimes, but I'm very excited about the opportunities it presents.
Oh, we are as well. It's just, I think the other half of that is the social media and gaining attention. So could you go into a little bit more about how you're utilizing social media to get word to people to then get them to IndieGoGo?
Yeah. So my approach was is that my primary platform is Twitter. Okay, and I like Twitter because I even before Elon took it over, I just like the user experience. And my approach was I'm going to connect with people who are also authors, but who have a foot in like the fantasy world. Because chances are, if you're a fantasy author or you're a fantasy reader, at some point in your life, you had comic books, or you enjoyed comic books, or whatever. So I'm looking at it as I'm going to try and connect with as many creative people as possible. And then the other thing is I don't think that I'll ever have a strong YouTube channel. So what I tried to do is I tried to be and you're aware that we're in spoiler territory, right? Okay.
Yep, I'm heading in the opposite direction.
Thank you. So what I realized was, hey, I know who's going to tune in to watch me, right? I'm just some guy. So I said, hey, I can never be Johnny Carson, but I can be Don Rickles. So what I try to do is I try to connect with as many YouTubers and live streamers so that I could be a welcome addition to their show. I mean, I'm trying to be as charismatic and as funny as I can be. And so far it seems to be working because typically a lot of these live streamers invite me back and so forth, and so it's wonderful. So I'm to some extent I'm trying to be on people's shows and like add value, add energy, add some laughs, add some humor, and then try to use that opportunity to connect with people who might enjoy Jupiter. So that's been my social media approach, is being on Twitter and connecting with as many creatives as possible outside of just comics. And then when I'm connecting with people who have a show, and just trying to help them have fun on their show and get in touch with their audience. I in January and February, I did do some test advertising through Facebook and Twitter, and I went through a couple of different iterations of running ads and things like that, and by and large, just wasn't super impressed. The evidence showed that I could get link clicks, but in terms of getting connected with the right audience, either through the signups or the early sales, when I looked at where the sales are coming from, they weren't coming from, say, Facebook. So that tells me the Facebook ads necessarily weren't working. Or I take that back. The Facebook ads were working, but the revenue wasn't worth the continued expense. So I kind of tapered off the Facebook ads.
right. So, tell us about your day job. Is it in any kind of creative field, and you, or do you come to this as your outlet?
Yeah, I come to this as my outlet. Yeah, I mean, my day job involves creative problem solving, but it's not creative. It's nowhere near as fun as this. Nowhere near as fun
Right,
as
pays
this.
the bill. Right, I'm a teacher, so I'm in a school all day with middle school kids, and Kurt is has also done instruction, art instruction, and we've been through it, a lot of different jobs. We understand. Yeah, and this character here, tell us about this blue and yellow superhero guy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
same
so that's
question.
cat.
Same question.
Yep. So that's so that's Captain Kleinbottle. And what here? So this is part of my world building. Okay. So in the world of Jupiter, the world that this combo takes place, there aren't any superheroes except for in the comics. And in the comics, actually, Kurt, would you do me a favor? Would you close the book and flip it over and show the back cover? All right. So that's Captain Kleinbottle. So in the world of Jupiter, what happened is that in the 1950s, when Jack Kirby and Joe Simon started mainline comics, they had four titles in our world. They had a romance, a crime, and a war comic, and so forth. In the world of Jupiter, they had a fifth title. It was Captain Kleinbottle, and he was an astronaut akin to Sky Masters. So again, this is fictional, but this in the world of Jupiter, this is what happened. Um, Captain Kleinbottle took off, and it went from being just a straightforward astronaut into when he gets into space, crazy stuff happens. I'm not going to say it was cosmic rays, but strange things happen. And then it was such a success that financially and creatively, Jack Kirby was free. He was free of having to go back to Marvel or DC. So subsequently, all the creative energy that Jack Kirby unleashed in the world of Jupiter, he profited from, and he became like a Walt Disney figure. So in the world of Jupiter, there's a Kirby land. Everybody, all of his characters are household names. His biggest character is Captain Kleinbottle, but all the wackiness, all the zaniness, all the wonder that Jack Kirby basically gave to Marvel and DC for pennies on the dollar, he did on his own at mainline comics. It continued on, and he and Joe Simon were basically like Walt Disney figures. So that's the backstory. But how it serves the story is that it allows me in the story of Jupiter to jump into superheroics as a template. And so the characters, they'll read Captain Kleinbottle. There's these like 2 or 3 page asides where they'll read those comic books, and it'll kind of inform, rightly and wrongly, their heroic journey.
So if the Captain Klein bottle are like sidebars of a comic within a world, and in the world, Jack Kirby got his due, unlike the real world.
Exactly. Yep.
Right.
Yep. And
So
and, and
and
again,
you
Alan Moore did the same thing with in Watchmen with Tales of the Black Freighter. So this isn't. I'm not saying this is super new, but what I did do is, as you
oh yeah, right.
saw when Kurt was flipping through the book, when I do the Captain Kleinbottle stuff, which is usually just 2 or 3 page asides, each issue will have 2 or 3 pages where it jumps into Captain Kleinbottle. What I do is I color it in the 64 color palette that Marvel Comics had in the Bronze Age. I draw it to the best of my humble ability, like Jack Kirby, and I look at like the Joe Sinnott inks, and I try to replicate some of those little squiggles and stuff like that. And
Oh
I
yeah.
have a wonderful time doing it. But I'm trying to create this texture between, on the left hand side there you've got the quote unquote real world, on the right hand side you've got the comic book world.
So we have to ask, as definite Kirby fanatics. We had a series where we went through Commandy 1 through 20. That was always my favorite Kirby title. What are your favorite Kirby title or titles?
So that is probably, you're asking me to use the wisdom of Solomon here. I do not think I could nail it down.
You
but
got
but
to. We're
okay,
on a podcast. You have to say something.
all right. So
Desert
so
Island.
if I had to say, tell you, killing me. So I think the thing that's closest to my heart is the Captain America Tales of Suspense stuff, and the reason being, my first comic book was Captain America 214. And so I was looking for anything else I could find about Cap or Marvel or Jack Kirby. And a couple of years later, it was either Random House or Ballantine Book. They did a pocket book, full color of Jack Kirby's Tales of Suspense Captain America stories with Stan Lee, of course, and Chick Stone was the inker. And I read that thing until the frickin' cover came off.
Yeah.
So behind me, I've got the Penguin Classics of the Tales of Suspense run. I've got it in omnibus form. I've got it in the Epic Collection. So, given the fact that I keep buying it every time they republish it, I have to say it'd be the Tales of Suspense Captain America.
Right. That is a really good era for Stan and Jack, and and I think that first run, it was pretty rare and maybe not as as popular as some of the other titles. So I think I probably came across that when it was reprinted later in, I'm thinking, Marvel Triple Action, maybe.
Oh yeah, yep,
right,
yep.
with Captain America and Iron Man, right?
Yep, and
Right.
Marvel Triple Action and World's Greatest Comics, and then I think there was an X-Men one. So back in the 70s, you didn't have the internet. There were fewer comic book shops, and there was no eBay, right? So I would always hunt down those reprint books and try to catch up on what I had missed by being born so late.
Right. Yeah, I know. If you had the original Amazing Spider-Mans versus the Marvel Tales, you were really like saying something. Like me and my friends, we all just had Marvel Tales. My friend was like,
Yeah.
"Ooh, I know a guy who has Marvel Tales #1." So, yeah, we really love that period. So, have you delved very deeply into the history of Marvel and Jack? Because I'm just kind of doing that now. And I think there's an amazing story there about the way Jack kind of shepherded Cap through Marvel and brought him back. When they had this really good superhero line up and running, about a year, 6 months or a year in, they started bringing Cap in, and they brought him in from the Ice and the Avengers. But then there was all these legal problems with Joe Simon, and Martin Goodman, made Jack Kirby, sign letters and affidavits against Joe Simon and his lawsuit. Do you go like that nerdy into the back history of Jack and all of his properties?
So I read the Mark Evanier Kirby book from like 10 years ago, and
Mhm.
I've picked up I've picked up bits, but I have not read the Marvel The Untold Story. I haven't read that yet.
Right.
So yeah, it's pretty grim. The kind of the predicament that he was in, and so forth. Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah.
rough. And
Yeah, there's also Marvel The Secret History, but I think Marvel The Untold Tales is that the Sean Howe book?
yep, the Sean Howe book. Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
right. Yeah,
And I might be wrong on the name, but yeah,
I'm relishing that
I
book. I'm
okay,
about 2/3 in, and I'm reluctant to finish it. I never want it to end, but
okay.
I know it's going to get into later stuff. So yeah, what else would you like people to know about this? Whether
Mhm,
they want to be an investor, like an early investor in the
mhm.
crowdsourcing, or if they want to just wait for it to come out and be on the lookout for it on the stands. I know this is a cliche question, but what sets this apart, from all the other offerings that are out there and through
Mhm.
all the history of comics to this point?
Mhm. So I think what said so first off, it should be abundantly clear that I'm all about having fun. So and adding and providing value, right? So Jupiter, it's 40 pages full color for $10. You can't beat that. Furthermore, if you go back on IndieGoGo, you're going to get a non-prize, not to be confused with a no prize. This is a non-prize, and I would never lie to either of you or your audience. There's flipping nothing in there. So um, on the back of the non-prize, there's a supervillain who's telling you that even though you won the non-prize, he's going to win in the end because the best supervillain's trash talk. Um, Things like this, I think, indicate the amount of fun that I'm having and the fun that I want you to have as a reader. There's serious things in Jupiter. There's going to be rising stakes, but over all of it is the fact that I want to have fun, and I want to provide you the best quality I can. And so I encourage you to hop on and enjoy the ride with me.
Nice.
Yeah, it seems like you got a good thing going on there. You know what I like about the storytelling is um it does go very blow by blow. It's not like too crammed in, and you really do, I think that's a good way of hooking somebody into the story as they're turning the pages. um because I might have a tendency to, overdo pages and try to put too much in there. The text
Whoops.
gets too small. Careful. What are you doing? The text gets really small, and the storytelling gets convoluted. So I see you have a really kind of like facile way of bringing them into the story as they're driving up, and just having the conversation. I think that's a valuable thing to do. You're kind of like taking people out of the real world and taking them into this world. Whereas action packed, crammed first page, second page, third page, their eyes are darting all over the place. And, sometimes you just, lose them right from the outset.
I I mentioned earlier that my writing technique is to go a panel at a time, and I'll do them on these 3x5 cards. I will lay them out on the floor, and I'll say, what can I remove? What can I remove? Because I want it. I want to find this sweet spot between um, um, the pacing the pacing that allows you to pick up the world building, but does not slow down the story. So there's that tension between world building and storytelling. So but I guarantee you, I have written twice as much as what I've drawn, because I've ruthlessly pulled out cards, or I've said, okay, I've got two panels here. How can I mash them into one panel to make the story as direct as possible, but not feeling claustrophobic, right? Because I do not like decompressed storytelling. I think it's terrible. However, I still want things to like breathe, and so I do struggle hard as a writer to make sure that there's something of value in every panel. And if I can put two panels into one panel and enrich the experience, I'm going to do it. And I think it's important, because you're you've only got so much time. You're cheating the reader if you can do something in one panel that you want to do in two panels. So,
Yeah.
and I think, and just like dynamite, right? As you're pushing it down, and I think the more you can compact, and make things as intense as possible and as rich as possible, I think that stands out versus the decompressed storytelling that's kind of everywhere nowadays.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's always a critical balance, because if you're world building, you have a lot to say. I mean, there's every aspect of the world, and you trying to figure out where you can put that all in on the page. But you could also excuse me, you could also crowd things out pretty quickly too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I notice you have like, very kind of like wide open pages, and it gives you the sense of like the quietude sometimes.
You also have in the back, and you had said something previous about silent interlude, which do you want to talk a little bit more about this and the matter that's sort of additional to the package?
Yeah, so Jupiter's 40 pages, and the main story, takes up most of the book, but I do have some room to create some palette cleansers and create some texture. And one of them is this kind of horror story here. And Kurt's gonna be very careful not to go past page 3. But this is an instance where I'm basically saying, you know what? I have this huge canvas. I've got 40 pages. To make it fun for me and to make it fun for the reader, I'm going to put some variety, put some texture in this. So this is a horror story about a young boy who hears a noise out the window at night. So against his better judgment, he scurries down and he begins to look for where are these monsters? These monsters that he sees out of the corner of his eye. And as you can see on these pages, he's seeing frightening horror, nightmarish creatures on the edges of the city here, but he persists on. He goes on to find out what's going on, and I won't spoil the ending, but I couldn't do that at Marvel or DC. They wouldn't. The editor wouldn't let me do that, right? So I'm taking advantage of the 40 pages to do as many different kinds of things as I want to, all bringing value, all adding to the overall experience. But I can do, if I want to, I can do a gag. I can do 1-page gag strip. I can do 1-page little surrealist vignette. I can do anything I want to, and that's part of the excitement of being indie and being free.
Awesome.
Right. How about a hostess cupcakes page?
Well, I have that too. Why don't you flip to the very back? Flip to the very back. There you go, and turn it around. So all the best comic books of the 1970s had a hostess.
Oh, look at that!
Ad. Yeah.
Oh my god. ESP.
ESP. Exactly. So again, Hostess didn't pay me any money. The Hostess is not going to pay me any money, so I made up a pie company. But just to roll with it, here we've got Salvador Dali freaking out about his mental issues, and Captain Kleinbottle has to talk him off the ledge by offering him a free
That's
pie.
great.
Right.
That's great.
Yeah, so you have like the Marvel vocabulary for sure. That's definitely a selling point, right? If people like classic Marvels, and they'll see all that stuff. Great.
Yeah, there's a strong vein of Silver Bronze Age Marvel in me, and as well as Zap Comics, as well as some European influences.
And with that being said, we are coming up on the 45-minute mark. We'd like to keep these podcasts of ours bite-sized so we can let those people get back to reading comic books and making them if they choose to. Jason, we want to thank you so very much. But with this, we also want to give you an outro. So if there's anything that you want to give in the way of shout outs, links, and so forth, and I'll even get them from you and put them in the description below. But go for it.
The main campaign is on IndieGoGo, and as we speak, we're on day 25, and we're approaching the $3,800 threshold. Very confident we'll get to for sure 4,000 pretty soon. I've got a $5,000 stretch goal. For the $5,000 stretch goal, we talked about Captain Kleinbottle earlier. The $5,000 stretch goal is every backer is for free going to get this Captain Kleinbottle fan club membership card. And you can see it is hosted. It is sponsored by a pie company. And because Captain Kleinbottle is a time traveler, the years on the membership go backward in time from 2023 to 1953, and then on the back of the membership card is a schematic of his rocket ship. So this is 24-point PVC laminated both sides. I've already manufactured these. I've got a box of them here. Woo! I really want to get these out into your hands. So everybody who's watching, please back. The basic tier is $10. $10, you get a 40-page comic book with a non-prize, and if we can get it to 5,000, you're all going to get the membership card. And then if you're a Kickstarter person, I do have a Kickstarter campaign as well. So Jake and Kurt, thank you so much for sharing your time with me this weekend and letting me get in touch with your viewers, and I greatly appreciate it.
Jason, thanks for plugging away at your creativity, and we're hoping that this thing comes out and it's a big splash, so you can just jump right into the next one.
And we are supporting. So we have
thank you.
We have made our donation. So yes, so we do wish you a lot of luck.
Awesome.
All right. We'll see you.
All right.